Whoa.
Wow. It's on wheels, that.
Is that big enough for you?
Well, let's hope so, eh? Our small compressor, which, bless it, has been through so much, has been struggling to keep up with us recently. What with the months of strenuous painting and sandblasting we have inflicted on it, who can forget the chassis frame? Not me, for sure. We were worried it might be about to gasp its last.
The compressor's not as good as it was when we first acquired it.
But this week, a little cosmic ordering is all it took to be introduced to this beast. More about that later, but we reckon that when it comes to sandblasting, this could be a real game changer. First though, after several days spent fixing up our poorly Mini and its broken timing chain,
Get Cal on!
we have our second set of leaves from front spring number 2 to get through, and a proper old school radiator. A massive old school radiator, which also needs some work. So join us, Lisa and Tim, in our workshop on the farm as we continue with the restoration of this 1975 Bedford M Series, former firetruck, rolling home on wheels to be.
Hello! Right, so where are we? It is, weirdly for us, just a random Wednesday afternoon at the beginning of August, and we've come in and it looks like we've unexpectedly and accidentally going to be starting our next video. So yeah, that's great news. And why are we starting our next video? Because we have a very small weather opportunity.
So, tell them, how's the car?
All right, yep, so we fixed the car. Well, actually, he fixed the car while I stood around making cups of tea and going, what's that do then? But yeah, isn't he a genius? So thankfully, our car is up and running again. It was a very hairy moment when we just turned over that engine for the first time, because if anything had been wrong with it, that would have been the end of the car. Anyone who knows anything about timing chains will know you have to do it properly, or not do it at all.
Get Cal on!
Turns out he did it properly, isn't he clever?
Sounds like a sewing machine.
Yeah, weather opportunity.
Weather opportunity. We've had terrible wind. And the fog this morning, but it's cleared. So we're going to just get straight in the tent here, and I've been trying to remember how to get all the sandblasty stuff together, but we're going to give it a go.
I think we're going to start with some leaf springs.
I'm just going to see if it works, because the compressor is it's on its knees over there. Yeah, we made a mistake, I think, in hindsight with the compressor. We were thinking about our neighbours and ourselves, and we got one of those silent compressors. And they also tend to be oil free. They're probably really good in the short term, and if you're not going to use them as much as we have, but it's really worn, so all the piston liners are absolutely worn down so bad, and we can't get any spares. Yeah, a company that sells this stuff doesn't even sell spare parts. In hindsight, we should have just got ourselves a proper oil normal compressor, but you live and learn. So yeah, we're on the lookout for another one.
So before the fog comes back in,
I've got to change out on my best t-shirt.
let's take opportunity.
See you later.
We've probably got about 20 minutes, so
Yeah.
get in there. He's naked now. Sorry about that.
believe it or not, we were really happy to get back to the sandblasting this week, mostly because we just want to get it over with. And after several months spent dealing with a house eviction, moving into the caravan, and then the windiest, foggiest, rainiest, miserablest weather on record, there has been little opportunity to get on with what we endearingly refer to as summer work. But here we are, with a little sunshine to hand, sandblasting leaf spring number 2 at last. Shame it's such painfully slow going.
My face is ruined. I've been sandblasting all morning. And when it's sandblasting, there's sieving. There's all sorts of dirt gets put in the sand, and we don't want it to block up the nozzle. So we sieve it all as we go along. And we sieve it next to the fan, which has a filter on it, because that takes out quite a lot of the dust. And the more you use this sand, the dustier it gets.
So if you've been following us for a while now, you may or may not remember that we did make a video about the leaf springs. That was quite in depth when we did the first set of leaf springs, actually back last November sometime, so it's a really long time ago. But I'll pop a link up there to that video that gives you a bit more technical detail about what the leaf springs are all about and why we decided to go about them the way that we're going about them. So after a huge long gap between leaf spring 1 and leaf spring 2, Tim's now in the tent. He's just sandblasting the second one of the front leaf springs, and I'm going to put this Oatral oil onto the parts of the leaf spring that won't get painted, so essentially the parts that are where they meet together, and that will give it some rust protection. As I say, in the video that we made last year about the leaf springs, we do explain all of this, why we don't paint between them and why we're using the Oatral oil, so I won't go into that massive over explanation now. So we've got these ones, and then we've got the 2 back ones left to do. It's a bit boring for us because the novelty was in the first leaf spring where we took it all apart, we did the plating for it and it was all brilliant. Now we just have to plough through and do the hard graft and get them done. The 2 back ones are also considerably bigger than the front ones, but we'll show you those when we get to them. But for now, I'm going to do some oiling while Tim finishes off the sandblasting. Hopefully these will dry over the next couple of days while we're off tomorrow, and then we can get them painted and then we can crack on with the back ones.
Yeah, didn't understand the word. Subtitles needed. Well, Lisa's doing the last one of these at the moment. One of the long ones. Slow going at the moment. The compressor's not as good as it was when we first acquired it, and it's sort of slowing down considerably. It's not building up the same amount of pressure, which makes this going a little bit slower. Hopefully we may have a solution in the pipeline. We'll see what happens. But yeah, she's oiled these up, and hopefully by Monday it should be dry enough. We'll stack it together and paint it. Heavy.
The very next thing you hear from me, I've been tied to a ball and chain. Well, come this time tomorrow, reckon
The 2 front springs each consist of a total of 9 leaves, and as Tim mentioned, the entire thing once bolted together is very, very heavy. For reasons we explained in our previous video, we weren't painting each leaf individually, so in order to paint it, we had to paint it whole, which was a bit of a logistical challenge, working out how to hold it in place whilst we did so. After applying the epoxy primer with the spray gun, we decided to use a rattle can for the top coat in satin black, a task which for once Tim entrusted me with. He would later come to regret this decision. Not that I made a bad job of it, I made an excellent job, of course. Maybe a bit too good, as we'll find out in a bit.
Keep quiet and settle down.
Here is a massive old school radiator. Tim has cleaned this up quite a bit already. And what we found is it's largely made of brass in the water wells at the top and the bottom here, but all the radiating part of it, the conducting and where the water runs through it and the heat and everything, this is all copper. Well, the question really is, how are we going to clean this up? I think Tim obviously would have just liked to put sandblaster on it and be done with it, and I was like, I don't know if that's such a good idea, getting a load of sand in here. He's already cleaned it up quite a bit in here, probably ideally get a bit of a jet wash onto it. We don't have a jet wash handy at the moment, so probably be a little bit later down the line. This is just all steel all around the outside here, so maybe sandblast all around there. Obviously cover up these bits because I don't want that going in where the water is. And then I'm going to probably do some zinc plating on some of these bolts at the end here, while I'm also doing the zinc plating for the rear leaf springs, which is quite a lot of that to do. So yeah, we've already done the cover for this. That's all in paint and ready to go. It'd be really good, wouldn't it, if at the end of this video this radiator was like hanging back in place. Can it be done? Probably not, but you never know.
Well, he went ahead and sandblasted it anyway, because as we all know by now, this boy loves to sandblast stuff. He assures me he did it carefully, of course, and afterwards to paint it he reached for the rattle cans once again. First the primer and then the same satin black that I used on the leaf spring, which is where, at the 11th hour, he discovered the flaw in the plan.
Well, that went good, and it went bad. It went good. I was trying to get this all finished. I thought, it'd be really nice. Get this all done, painted, let it dry for a day, stick it back on the chassis. And I ran out of paint. Yeah, Lisa used too much when she was doing the leaf spring, and left me with not enough paint.
You are getting blown.
So yeah, I did go over, because all the metal around the edges and everything like that, I went over the sandblaster, and I was being quite careful about it, but I probably didn't need to be that careful. So yeah, I cleaned it all up. It cleaned it up really nicely. Gave it a bit of primer, some zinc primer on the steel parts, and then some just general primer on the other bits. And just thought I'd rattle can it, or aerosols with some satin black, and I ran out. Hopefully this could make a difference. Hope he's feeling strong. Wow, some wheels, huh?
Is that big enough for you?
That's some big wheels, aren't they? Yeah, that'll do it. going on? As we've said in our previous videos, we've been having quite a lot of problems with our compressor, and we've been relying on the compressor hugely for the sandblasting. Nick, a friend, came round and we were just chatting, and he's like, hang on a minute, I might know someone who might have a compressor. So he gets on the phone, sure enough, got a compressor, might have a couple of issues, but yeah, so this is like, what, a day later, 2 days later, he turns up with a compressor. Now, we don't know how good it is or how much air or anything, but it is a bit of a beast, so we're hoping that this is going to make the difference for us going forward. And fortunately, our other compressor isn't completely knackered at the moment, so we know we almost, you know, got a backup. As well as this, we ended up with a couple of other little things kind of thrown in, and we again don't know how good they are at working. They might be a little bit of side projects, but they could be very useful to us in the future. So yeah, we've got a little tiny bandsaw, way smaller than I thought it would be, and a sort of thickness of planer, but yeah, nice. But yeah, this is we're going to plug this in and see what happens. Hopefully it works. Right.
Fuses and some mild tweaking later, it did indeed work, pretty brilliantly in fact. And speaking to you now, a couple of weeks in the future, let me just say right now that this is currently making our sandblasting life move a whole lot faster. Good times.
Here we go.
We were emailed months ago when we did the other, the original front leaf spring by John in Belgium, Antwerp in Belgium. And I just checked your email again, John, if you're still watching after all these months. Just want to say, you know, thanks for reminding us about needing to grease up these leaf springs before we put them on. John mentioned to us that he'd been restoring his Fiat Ducato, and he hadn't greased the leaf springs and had since been driven slowly insane by the creaking and cracking.
The squeaking.
So we are not going to make the same mistake.
No, we had actually already, we did actually oil them, and now we have the manuals. It's really helpful because they also tell you, yeah, to grease up.
And funnily enough, just yesterday when I put a photo on Instagram of the rear leaf spring that we started taking apart, we were also messaged by the Bolt Whisperer on Instagram who said the same thing to us. So to all those people, we're doing it. Do you want to hand me that?
And also, these will get torqued up to the correct torque for them all, but only once it's back together again with all the weight of the engine on it and loaded up and everything like that. There's quite a few things on this which you torque once it's laden. There we go.
Beautifully greased.
Yeah, beautifully need a bit more paint on it.
What are you saying about my paint job?
It's alright. Right, should we try and put the back end on? Or has the audience had enough of this?
Well, I think even if the audience has had enough of it,
still
we still have to do it.
This one has already been bolted up and it has grease in it and everything, so that's actually in place where it goes. And that's why I've done this one, because it's going to swivel, it might give us a better chance of lining it up. Ready? Screwdriver and then right, as well as torquing these up, they also have tabs on them to turn over so that the nuts can't come undone. A couple of them have a thing to stop the bolts turning and a couple of them don't. So this one has a turnover tab. Once this is torqued up to the right temperature, you bend the edge of the tab over to stop the nut. Oh, that's it. It bolts in there. I just love these bolts because it's all been replated. They're just so nice and clean. They're like brand new bolts, and even a big bolt like that, just being able to do it by hand, that's pretty cool. Spanner for those to tighten them up, but that's it, isn't it? That's all of it. 2 down, 2 to go, and they're the big ones. Well, I guess that's the end of another video, really.
Indeed.
So yeah, we've been getting on with a lot of different things around here. Many little bits and pieces going on, but the main ones you've probably seen. We've got the radiator very nearly finished.
Sorry about the spray paint.
Yeah, it's going to take a trip to Trago Mills for some more aerosol cans. I've completely run out.
Sorry.
And the other thing, I suppose, was the front leaf spring. We've got another leaf spring finished, but it wasn't without its pain. It was getting slower and slower with the compressor. It was almost like using a felt tip pen on a massive like whiteboard. It was getting hard. And then what did we do?
We did some cosmic ordering, and this is like genuinely when we started this video, we had no idea that we were going to be pretty much gifted a massive industrial compressor.
I did pay some cash.
Well, yeah, but it was still a gift from, whatever.
Yeah, none of this is planned. We were like literally saying we are really struggling here. You even looked up on the middle of Lidl to see if they had anything coming up.
Yeah.
And then that same day. Anyway.
So yeah, actually just want to say a huge thanks to our friend Nick for organising that and being the middleman with that actually.
Yeah, thanks,
it was
Nick.
Just amazing timing and everything. So yeah, cheers.
Yeah. And we got that, and this morning basically is the first time I've had a bit of a proper go with it. I went in there with some of the rear leaf springs, no cleaning up, no grinding, no nothing, went straight in there and knocked these straight out. Yeah. Game changer, if I can say that. So it certainly is.
If only we'd had it when we started doing the chassis.
Yeah, it was, with the other one, it's been trying to keep up all the time with us. This one, actually, I had it and I selected enough pressure to really get the job going, and it was cutting out because it's built up its pressure. So a third of the time it wasn't even running, it was just like, and it was like, oh God, I'm sandblasting in silence. So if anyone is ever considering doing sandblasting at home, it isn't a very expensive setup. Our pot was just over, I think, 100 quid. The sand is hardly anything. The nozzles are hardly anything. But get a really as big a compressor as you can. The more cubic feet per minute it can flow will definitely make it a more pleasurable
we have
experience.
learned this lesson the very hard way, I have to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it means that going forward with the rest of our sandblasting, the rear leaf springs, which are massive, the front axle, which is massive,
even the wheels.
And the wheels, it's going to make lighter work, or slightly less soul destroying work, shall we say, than using the little compressor.
Well, I think it is fun when it's working really good. So hopefully this is going to, and if it kind of takes it out of your head that you're like, oh god, I've got to do more sandblasting. This is kind of a little bit more like, oh, sandblasting.
So yeah, we
game changer.
Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment and subscribe if you haven't done already. A huge thanks to our patrons as well, as always, for your generous ongoing support. Really appreciated. In our next video, our next big video, we'll probably be doing all this stuff with the big compressor. But in between there, I'm thinking it would be nice to maybe do a little question and answer video. We get asked the same questions quite a lot over and over again, so I thought it'd be good to put a video out there with some of those kind of frequently asked questions. So if you have anything in particular that you want to ask about the project mostly, or about us, or about our setup, or whatever, then just leave a comment and I'll pop it in that video.
Yeah.
Cool.
So until then, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Where's my glasses? Every time.
Huge thanks as always to our fantastic patrons, and of course to all the rest of you for watching and following along on our epic restoration journey. And a special shout out this week to long-time subscriber Guy, who came to visit us at the workshop this week with his 3 boys, William, Ben and Tim. It was great to meet you all. And this closing track is for you.
I finished school at the age of 18 'cause I'm supposed to. I kept on, got a college degree 'cause I'm supposed to. Got a job working 9 to 5 'cause I'm supposed to. Bought a ring, got me a wife 'cause I'm supposed to. What the hell's all of this supposed to ever done for me? Well, I didn't sleep a wink last night. Work's drying up and money's tight, though I followed this old script line by line. This whole thing was a lousy bet. There's holes all in my safety net, and it's a goddamn lie when I say I'm doing fine. Didn't think this was what I was supposed to get by doing everything that I supposed